Coming up next on This Week in Computer Hardware, HP keeps the PC disaster in Thailand. Is it time to start hoarding hard drives? Android orphan, SandForce bot, accelerating Netflix, micro stutter, and the best NVIDIA GPU. It's all coming up next on Twitch.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twitch.
Bandwidth for Twitch is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware, episode 143, recorded October 27, 2011. It's time to hoard hard drives.
This episode of This Week in Computer Hardware is brought to you by Ford, featuring Wi-Fi connectivity with available sync and My Ford Touch. Now your car can be a Wi-Fi hotspot. Check it out at the new 2012 Ford Focus and at ford.com/technology. And by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly. All streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit.
Welcome to This Week in Computer Hardware. I'm Patrick Norton, joined, as always, by the man who I think is actually in his own comfortable home broadcasting studio, Mr. Ryan Shrout, man about town, and, well, the dude behind PCPer.com. How you doing, Ryan?
Doing pretty well. I do get to stay home here for at least a couple, 3 weeks, which is nice. I think I don't have any, as of this moment, I have no work trips planned before the end of the year. Let's put it that way.
As of this moment.
No promises.
Barring any unforeseen product announcement, releases, updates, or major startups, Ryan will be at. Actually, your wife's probably pretty thrilled about that.
Yeah. time to pick up on all the chores.
Yeah, I was trying not to mention the chores list. I've been like doing construction for the last 3 days, which in the case of me usually means doing demolition, so people who are competent with things like plaster and drywall can do their thing.
It's a good plan, actually.
Yes, and let me tell you something. I've been watching the electrician work. I'm freaking gonna have the most amazing electrical service in a house ever. That's all I'm saying. At least on a house that doesn't have its own private personal generator system for when the power supply goes offline. But we'll talk about that on another episode of Twitch. Twitch, by the way, this week in computer hardware, Ryan Shrout and I talk about, well, computer hardware. We dip our toe into handhelds, Android, internet access, but mostly we're about PCs, PC gaming, what parts you should buy, what parts you should avoid, and answering your questions. Twitch at twit.tv is the email address, and we love to hear from you. You can also hit us on Twitter. Right now, though, we should probably fire up some big news, especially if you're an employee of HP. HP has decided they will keep their PC division. In the spectacular verbiage of the press release, HP today announced that it has completed its evaluation of strategic alternatives for its personal systems group and has decided the unit will remain part of the company. Yeah, it's interesting. HP objectively evaluated the strategic, financial, and operational impact of spinning off PSG, which makes me think of like Battlestar Galactica.
Which would be cooler.
Yes. It's clear after our analysis that keeping PSG within HP is right for customers and partners, right for shareholders, and right for employees, said Meg Whitman, HP President and Chief Executive Officer. HP is committed to PSG, and together we are stronger. It's interesting.
It's one of the things I was going to point out. Did we all overreact because HP never actually said they were selling it, right? They said they were evaluating selling it. Is that correct? Like, based if we go way back into summer, and when they had that press call, where they said did they say they were evaluating it? Or did they pretty much just say they were going to sell it, or they were selling it, and this is kind of a backtrack?
Well, it was a spin-off and a reinvention of HP. And it's kind of funny. When you look at HP, you think of gigantic technology. Nobody thinks about, except for maybe me and Lloyd Case and a lot of other hardcore geeks, like nobody ever thinks about, the calculator division. Nobody ever thinks about all of the stuff that HP used to do or currently does that never gets any notice. But they think about, like, IBM. IBM gets rid of the ThinkPads and the desktops, and they concentrate on the things IBM does that no other company in the world can do, like build gigantic, multi-continent banking systems that are totally secure and totally real time and totally whatever else IBM needs them to do, or to basically continue to invent primary patents that will be generating revenue for IBM, for the rest of time. And it's like, this is a classic article from this came out, HP, this was 8/18/2011, so the middle of August. HP reportedly to spin PC biz buy autonomy for $10 billion. And it's the idea that HP should spin the PC business has been kicking around Wall Street for months. Such a move would be consistent with CEO Leo Apotheker's state intention to move the company more into enterprise software. Back in March, the Taiwan-based Commercial Times reported that HP was selling the business to Samsung, a story HP denied was accurate. Quote, HP runs the world's largest PC business, and it is core to HP's strategy for the connected world. So, I think it's interesting. You got Meg Whitman in, you've got, a company that is trying to hold its identity, is trying to move beyond its traditional identity because, they want to be IBM. They want to be, there's a German company that's kind of like that where it's like people hear the name, they think, computers for the most part. But it's actually a company that's like, we make stupid bank off of enterprise integration, huge, massive scaled, Fortune 1000, Fortune 100. Hey, we're going to give we're going to set up and maintain and do a contract deal to maintain your 80,000 personal computers on 6 continents.
It's funny if you read in the last part of this press release, it says PSG has a history of innovation and technological leadership, and established record of industry-leading profitability, and a personal computer division that revenues total $40 billion. So you read that paragraph, and you're like, why would you ever debate giving up a $40 billion industry-leading profitable division? And you realize that, maybe at the top they weren't thinking things all the way through.
There's a pretty good article on Wired.com, the one that's basically HP convinces itself to keep selling PCs. And I think they nail it pretty much on the head. Paragraph 3, Apotheker, which is the former CEO that Meg Whitman replaced. Apotheker was once the CEO of SAP, and after taking the reins at HP, he played to his strengths and began shifting the company towards a more software-centric vision.
Yep.
And say what you will about Meg Whitman, the woman knows how to make money in a big business. She did not run eBay for as long as she did, and walk out with the $140 billion bonus she proceeded to spend on the California gubernatorial campaign because she was not good at making money. And yeah, I don't think anybody. Let me rephrase that. There are very few people that can look at walking away from a $40 billion business, and make it make sense. But it could also be one of those situations like, what kind of money are they making on the $40 billion? You know what I mean? Apple makes an extraordinary amount of money given its revenue. Most other companies aren't as fortunate to have those kind of margins. I think, we were talking about last week, I was talking with somebody recently about, why is Intel moving away from the SSD market? Because Intel wants like 60% margins whenever possible. And as SSDs become commodity products, it is impossible to maintain ginormous margins. So it's going to be, mostly I'm just happy that anytime a company like that gets sold, invariably it means the loss of a lot of jobs and the elimination of a lot of positions. So I'm just happy for everybody at HP who gets to keep their jobs. Although it's probably been, having been at a company that was, under the threat of being sold, I can only imagine it has been a rough and somewhat less than thrilling down there. So it's kind of funny. If Robert Heron, my co-host on Techzilla, was torturing me because, a few weeks ago I bought 4 3-terabyte drives at $125 a pop. 2 weeks ago he picks up 2 or 3. They were on a special deal, 3-terabyte drives for $85. And this week we have hard drive prices spike, Thailand flooding.
Yeah, so this is something that Ken actually pointed out to me. He just sent me a link to a Newegg page that listed a 3-terabyte SATA 6G hard drive that was for sale for $249. And I went, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's been a long time since I've seen 2 terabyte hard drives at that price. So we did a little, digging and saw that this was a fairly consistent price change that we're seeing across most manufacturers. And the reason is probably everybody's heard, or if you're watching the news, you've seen the Thailand flooding that's been going on. Yahoo called it the worst flooding in half a century, caused by unusually heavy monsoon rain. It's killed probably 400 people by now, and it's disrupted the lives of 2.5 million. Well, from a technical perspective, what's important about Thailand, it is the source of the majority of the manufacturing for spindle-based hard drives. Not just Western Digital, Samsung, Seagate, Hitachi, the ones that we know, but the companies that supply those companies. I can't remember the name of one such provider that actually provides 80% of the hard drive motors, and they have shut down operations as well until flooding and all that kind of stuff gets fixed. So what we saw, we kind of started looking around, is 2 terabyte hard drives. So Robert said he got 3 terabyte hard drives for like $89 on like a special a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely.
So 2 terabytes are now very hard to find under $129, and that is at the places that seem to be slower to adjust their prices based on availability concerns. Western Digital Caviar Black 2 terabyte drives are now $229. So we're talking about 2x, 2.5x increase in price on these hard drives for what I would call pending shortage that will probably happen. And the reason I think there's going to be a shortage is because if you look at some of the comments that we got, Western Digital actually posted a press release on their website talking about it. They said, where is this? Unprecedented obstacles to the hard drive industry for multiple quarters, which to me means 2 or 3 quarters, which means we're talking mid-2012 before they maybe see everything get stabilized. Somebody else says that the factories in Thailand support 60% of their output. Tons of suppliers, entire industry are flooded, and they're all impacted. So it's kind of, and there was another report from a story on Xbit Labs that says that based on their sources, they think there's 1 to 2 months worth of hard drive inventory available. So if it's not all fixed and corrected by then, there will become major shortages. And they seem to think that that time span is enough. I looked at it a different way and saw, okay, HP staying in the PC business, Dell still big in the PC business. They're going to start buying up these hard drives to store for use during that time period as we get into Christmas and January all through, early part of next year. And I think we are going to have shortages. And if nothing else, prices are going to go higher rather than lower.
Encourage hard drive hoarding.
I'm saying if you go to Micro Center or Fry's and you find 2 terabyte hard drives for $99, you might want to buy a dozen or 2 of them because you never know when you're going to need them.
eBay, they're going to be going huge.
Exactly. I mean, and it's not just Western Digital drives. We saw Seagate drives. We saw Samsung drives. They're all having these same types of things. And, looking at a couple of the pricing engines, Amazon.com looks like they had a 2 terabyte drive for $149, which was kind of, it's double what we'd expect them to see, but it's less than what Newegg and those guys. But I clicked on it, and it actually was selling it for $199. So it was a $50 price increase since the pricing engine had updated, right? So that's pretty dramatic difference there. And I kind of posit this, and I'll ask you, Patrick, does this maybe change the way people debate the hard drive versus SSD?
There was part of me that wanted to shout out at the beginning of this article, this is it. This is the opportunity for SSDs to take over the universe. But the problem is unless somebody with gigantic pockets like Intel says, hey, screw it, let's make 2 terabyte, hard drives and, 2 terabyte, 3.5-inch, SSDs, and just, take a bath on the cost, but just crush the spindle market once and for all, which I don't think is particularly plausible. You know what I mean? But on the other hand, I'm like, gosh, I can totally see somebody like Apple making SSDs standard on more of their computers. but when you get right down to it right now, in terms of pure capacity, I need terabytes of storage. I'm a video editor. I need terabytes of storage. I have a lot of games. I need terabytes of storage. I have a lot of movies. This does not bode well, you know, for PC manufacturers of any stripe.
Yeah, I mean, because we're looking at, you know, filling up NAS devices here for video expansion and that kind of stuff. And it makes a tangible difference when those 2 terabyte drives go from $79 to $200. You're like, whoa, all of a sudden buying 5 drives when you just happen to run into fries isn't quite the same story.
Something in the neighborhood of 150 2 terabyte drives in the raids, and our, you know, there's like 2 gigantic I want to say IX, like in each handles something like 50 drives. So yeah, you know, we generate several terabytes of video a day on a slow day, well, on a slow week probably, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I think, you know, it'll be interesting to see whether or not Thailand remains at the center of hard drive manufacturing. Because the other thing this says to me, you know, it's like, well, this is you know, I want to say market inefficiency, because I read that phrase 3,200 times in the middle of Moneyball, because I read Moneyball last week. But it's also like, you know, why do we tell people to back up remotely in case your house gets wiped out? You know, then your pictures, you know, all of your pictures are available on the web somewhere, right? You know, why do large companies store data in multiple locations? Why do large companies have manufacturing facilities in multiple areas so that no single one gets wiped out? Either, you know what I mean? It's you know, and it's kind of shocking to realize, whoa, hey, all of our hard drives come from there, and they got stomped by a monsoon. And I also got to say, you know, my heart goes out to the people of Thailand. There's, you know, just around 400 people have died. There's been massive flooding. Flooding sucks. I mean, it just sucks. It's just an absolute leveler. It's brutal. It's harsh. It'll take everything you own. You know, props to you know, the drive companies for basically being like, everybody go home. Don't die trying to get to work, please.
Right. Yep.
Occasionally, your thing. You know, I would be particularly worried if, you know, if reports come out like, oh, hey, the one company that makes 85% of the, you know, actuators that move hard drive heads got wiped out in the monsoon. That would be horrifying, right? Because I would think that infrastructure like that would take a considerable time to get back online. Yep. And that's what's, you know, comes back to, well, this is going to be exciting. Having, you know, gone through, you know, some hoarding scenarios, you know, with ammunition sales around the last presidential election, you know, it's you kind of laugh, but you can watch a simple commodity. It's like $6 a box go up to, you know, people actually telling you they want $15 a box for something, you know, because they have it. And if you don't buy it there, you'll have to like drive 2 hours to somebody else who has it. And, you know, this could be really ugly by the end of the year. Q4 is, you know, 50% of retail sales or more in some cases go into the holiday shopping season towards Christmas. And not being able to get hard drives could put a real crunch in PC sales or open up an opportunity for solid state drives to take over. I think we wait with bated breath.
I think it's a good idea. So other interesting news that happened yesterday, I guess, so we all know SandForce. They make they're very popular with solid state drives from OCZ, Corsair, and basically anybody that makes SSDs at this point has SandForce technology. Being acquired by LSI. This is a long-term company. This is a company that's been around for quite some time. Mostly known, in my experience, back in the old days with like SCSI devices and those types of things. They're purchasing SandForce for $370 million.
Oh.
Which will bring SandForce processors, let's see, under the DuraClass technology roof. So this may be the thing that gives LSI a new life, new blood in this area of technology, someplace where they've maybe, in terms of flashy technology, they've been kind of lacking over the most recent time periods. So, I mean, what do we think? Is this something that's we kind of maybe thought Intel might do this? We thought OCZ might do this.
Yeah, you know, I was kind of surprised it was LSI. I'm not surprised that
I think everybody was.
Yeah. You know, it's you know, how many at this point? How many other, Is Intel still doing,
Intel still has their own controller.
Right, but they start sourcing second-party controllers for the less expensive stuff.
Yep.
And the truth is, it's I would not expect LSI to stop selling their firmware to other people. It's interesting because so much of a solid-state drive is the firmware that is running on the silicon that you buy from somebody like SandForce. Because if you just run with, if you just run the stuff that comes out of the box, it's not like you're using ATI or NVIDIA's graphics driver, which is going to be fantastic. Right. It's like you're using the stripped-down DIY. Go ahead and make it perfect. Whacked out. It's basically a very bare bones version of the drivers. So. It's unusual. I certainly nothing anybody expected, and I'm just kind of like, I wonder what this is going to do to competitors. What's this? Is OCC going to change sources? Are there other opportunities? Hey, I wait.
You wonder LSI. All of LSI's kind of expertise is in the enterprise market. So we hope that they don't kind of buy this product up and it kind of only ends up that way. And I don't think that we have to worry about them not selling controllers to OCZ or other customers like that. I mean, SandForce is a profitable company. I think they'll continue to be so once they've been integrated with LSI. And I don't think you have to worry about that, because what might have been a worry is kind of when OCZ bought IndyLinks, and we thought, oh, there goes all the other IndyLinks drives. That is actually what happened. But SandForce kind of took over the market in terms of low-cost and high-performance solid-state drives. So it's not, if OCZ had bought SandForce, you would say, well, there goes all the other third-party branded solid-state drives, like from Corsair or anybody else. But I don't think that'll be the case with this. So interesting, but not earth-shattering, I don't think, in the industry. So.
When we talk about, we're going to talk about universal broadband and Android orphans. But first, take a moment to thank one of our sponsors.
That's right. This episode of This Week in Computer Hardware is brought to you by Ford. One of the latest technologies from Ford's sync with My Ford Touch is Wi-Fi support. This feature can turn your car into and your passengers internet access for up to 5 devices at one time. So here's how it works. You establish an internet connection to the Wi-Fi hotspot by plugging in a portable wireless access card, like one of the wireless carriers would sell you, into a specific USB port located in the center armrest console, or the glove compartment under the radio, depending on the model, those types of things. Or if you have a BlackBerry, this is kind of cool. You can connect to the hotspot wirelessly through Bluetooth. Next, you connect up to 5 Wi-Fi-enabled devices to the hotspot using a secure password. That's it. 3 are in. There's actually only 2 steps. I don't know why we need to go to number 3. But the idea is you plug in your USB hotspot, or you use your BlackBerry Bluetooth connection, and you automatically have Wi-Fi hotspot connectivity throughout your car for up to 5 people. You can access music, you can browse the internet, you can download apps, you can play games, all of that, just like you were on a standard kind of Wi-Fi router-based connection. They can connect their laptops, tablets, mobile phones, other internet devices, the hotspot, all up to 5 devices at once. And of course, we encourage the driver to not be included in any of these activities for safety's expense. And all of this is available to you without extra additional subscription or expense from the carrier. So that's actually pretty sweet. Ford Sync with My Ford Touch featuring Wi-Fi connectivity is available in the 2012 Ford Focus. You can learn more about this and other technologies Ford is bringing to its vehicles at ford.com/technology. And we thank Ford very much for their support of This Week in Computer Hardware.
Yes, we do. All right. I am not an Android user. I run an iPhone. And one of the reasons I do that is because, and there was a frenzied, heated debate about this on an email thread I was looking at earlier today with some friends of mine, basically talking about inconsistencies and updates in the Android operating system. Android, of course, powering all of the, not all, but the majority of the non-iOS tablets and, non-iPhones out there. And the understatement.com posted a pretty interesting pretty interesting visual graphic The understatement.com's website, the announcement that Nexus One users won't be getting upgraded to Android 4.0 Ice Cream led some to justifiably question Google's support of their devices. I look at it a little differently. Nexus One owners are lucky. I've been researching the history of OS updates on Android phones, and Nexus One users have fared much, much better than most Android buyers. And it's interesting to look at, and it's kind of funny. Let's flat out say it. Apple is very consistently over the years as part of maintaining the stability and efficiency of their operating system. Basically, they draw a line in the sand and they stop supporting all the older software. A lot of times with the operating system, the line in the sand has been a processor changeover or a major feature change. But looking at this, like 2008 Android, first year after release, operating system, second year after release, one major version behind, second half of the second year after release, two major versions behind. And some of these phones you're looking at, like 2009, 2010, Motorola Backflip. This is kind of cruel.
Wow.
Launched two major versions behind, is still three major versions behind. LG, it's an interesting chart. 7 of the 18 Android phones never ran a current version of the OS. And it's kind of funny. Other than the original G1 and MyTouch, virtually all the millions of phones represented by this chart are still under contract today. 11 of 18 stopped getting any support updates less than a year after release. 10 of 18 were at least two major versions behind. 15 of 18 don't run Gingerbread, which shipped in December 2010. Quote, at least 16 of 18 will almost certainly never get Ice Cream Sandwich. And it's an interesting, one of the things that came out in the conversation was like the inconsistencies in the evolution of the interface, the crazed feature competitiveness, not only between different Android manufacturers that use the Android software, but carriers trying to differentiate stuff. I think it's a little frustrating for Android to be kind of like all over the place and changing all the time, which is, kind of an issue. I've always felt that it's kind of I got to say, Ice Cream Sandwich looks fantastic. There's some consistencies in the interface I think were desperately needed, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of years.
Pretty damning graph. I guess maybe I am missing something, but this says that the original Apple iPhone is running iOS 5. Is that correct?
Well, that's an interesting thought. Third year, well, it's doing it based on the first year, second year, or third year after.
Oh, okay. So it's not current. No. So it was whatever was current as of 2010. Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
June
I see.
2010.
Okay. So this says it got at least 3 years of software updates after. Yeah, I mean it's pretty damning evidence against Android, especially the non-flagship Android phones.
I mean, you could also say that it could also be a sign that the majority of phone users don't actually care about what operating system their phone is running as long as their phone works.
I believe that is also the case.
Yeah. just to point the, because I was funny because a friend of mine was telling me Tuesday this week that they were getting their first smartphone and they're finally getting rid of like their 5-year-old phone, and part of me was like, awesome, you had a phone that lasted for 5 years, and part of me was like, wow, you're gonna freak out when you see your first phone bill after you start running through data.
Nice.
So, yeah, I didn't tell her about the whole data plan.
Nah.
That first $120 phone bill is just a precious experience. Interesting thought for rural broadband access. The FCC votes unanimously to revamp Rural Phone Fund as broadband subsidy. So there's been a fund around for about a zillion years, basically to put phone lines in the country. And when I say in the country, I mean in the middle of nowhere. And the FCC moved forward Thursday, quote, with a plan to transform a multi-billion-dollar rural telephone fund into a subsidy for broadband. Where is it? Okay, FCC Chairman Julius Genachowski predicted the plan would provide all Americans with high-speed web connections within 10 years and provide $2 billion in benefits to consumers. So, in case anybody cares, it's out there.
No, that's pretty cool. They're repurposing money for good reasons, I say.
Yeah. Well, it's all yeah. On one hand, I can't disagree because it's amazing. Part of me is like free market, and part of me is like having lived in places where there was kind of one, you would have people are like, well, cable modem versus DSL, and it's like, so I can get 15 to 30 megabits per second from cable, or I can take like 6 megabits that kind of runs at 3 megabits from DSL and have to pay for a phone line, although technically you don't have to pay for a phone line anymore unless you can find a third-party provider for DSL and get a faster DSL connection, but that's really limited compared to regular DSL. And a lot of people don't have access to DSL. A lot of people out in the country don't have access to either one. There's also interesting. It's also interesting that the tax, the charge on your monthly phone bill has risen from 5.5% to 15.3% since its introduction.
Huh.
Yeah, it's kind of like
not a surprise, probably.
Yeah, but it's just like I'm realizing again, I've got to go take a look at my phone bill and see where all that charges. Yeah, I mean, phone bills have the most crazed pile of tariffs ever. But this is going to be interesting.
Do.
So yeah, 300 million infusion of capital next year will eventually distribute 500 million annually to expand wireless broadband access along the nation's roads and highways. And I got to say, okay, there it is. Those funds will be distributed by reverse auction, with the first expected to take place. It's, I've been trying to find the kind of complete thing that they voted on to kind of figure out exactly how this is going to get rolled out and where, it's kind of interesting because, I don't know. There's just I spent a lot of time in Nevada and Utah and rural California, and I'll be really curious to see how well this works. Also a little terrified because the last thing I want to do is not be able to get away from a wireless connection. Although technically
it will happen sooner than you think.
No.
Yes, it will. Oh, yes, it will. Something else you put a link into here. For those in the video feed, there is a dirty word in said comic, but a funny little commentary on the graphics inside Battlefield 3, which, have you gotten a chance to play it all yet, Patrick, or at least see in action?
I have been playing Battlefield House. We're moving into the new house this weekend, and yeah, it is actually. There was an epic battle involving the ripping and replacing of a roof. I now have a garage roof that does not actually have sections you can see through, and a house roof that will guaranteed block water for the next 20 years.
Nice.
And I now have actually grounded outlets in my house, in all of my outlets.
Overrated.
No.
Well, what you've been missing, according to this Penny Arcade cartoon, is the most realistic croissants ever. They basically have a little thing in here where they're talking about how great the graphics are. They say it's not a texture. They're actually rendering individual croissants. But then if you go to the last frame, the second guy there, he doesn't get to see all that kind of stuff because he had to disable flakiness. Which, and it's kind of funny to show the back and forth between that. Funny cartoon. It obviously points out the game is gorgeous. If anybody came out to GeForce Land, you got to see some of the cool levels for the first time, but now the game's actually been released. I was playing it just this afternoon for about an hour or so, completely for testing purposes, I swear. And it's just the lighting and the visuals and the animations and everything are awesome. The camera work is awesome. The single-player campaign, very much kind of like, I guess Ken described it to me as kind of modern warfare-y, meaning that it's pretty scripted. It's kind of, walking you through a lot of parts. There's a couple of quick-time events, but it's gorgeous while it happens.
No, sorry. You sort of lost my train of thought at modern warfare. I'm envisioning like God of War, only with a slightly different character.
Nice. Yeah.
Sorry.
Very similar. So something to keep in mind. It's definitely a game that you guys should be checking out, despite some of people's issues with getting Origin up and running, which is their version of Steam and that kind of stuff too. So also kind of game related, we saw released the minimum PC requirements and the recommended system requirements for Skyrim. Did you ever play any of the Elder Scrolls game, Patrick? These are kind of the most epic role-playing games on the PC in quite a long time. And Skyrim, or he's hiding a little bit. Skyrim is going to look impressive. It's a drastic improvement over what Elder Scrolls 4 was. But if we look at the minimum requirements, they're actually pretty basic. They're only requiring a dual-core 2 gigahertz processor, a DirectX 9 compatible GPU with 512 megs of memory, 2 gigs of system memory, and they support Windows XP, Vista, and 7. That's actually pretty low. However, the recommended requirements are quad-core, 1 gig of memory on your graphics card, AMD 4890 or GTX 260 or higher, 4 gigs of memory, and then Windows XP or Windows 7. So they actually took Windows Vista off of the list for recommended requirements for that, which I thought was kind of funny. And some people have commented even on our story and other stories that why only DirectX 9? They're not putting any DirectX 11 stuff in there. They absolutely are including higher end graphical features, but their engine is going to scale very well to allow older hardware to still play it. So while maybe Battlefield 3 would be on the other end of things, it still scales pretty well. But if you want to play it the way it was supposed to be viewed and played, you have to have some pretty good hardware. This, it looks like they're going to have the whole gamut in a similar fashion, I guess, where you'll be able to play it with really awesome visuals, huge distant draw distances, or if you don't want to upgrade and you just want to, maybe the console-ish type experience, you can do that with hardware as old as a 4890 or GTX 260. So that's good news for people that don't want to upgrade. Maybe they had budgeted hard drive cache, and now they realize I'm not going to be able to do that. Yeah.
Interesting article from Phoronix, the AMD FX 8150 Bulldozer on Ubuntu Linux review, and it basically says the same thing it does on a PC. Single core performance, multiple core performance, 8 cores is awesome. Phoronix.com is the website for that one. It is a good read if you are a Linux user, and it's also interesting to see how people are operating, benchmarking under different operating systems, because we tend to be a little Windows-centric here. It's kind of fun to watch somebody come to the same basic conclusion that everybody else is. And let's see, Hard OCP has a Battlefield 3 preview performance and preview. Yeah. And where was it? There was one other article that really grabbed me, and I cannot find it.
Was it the 6950 comparison?
Yes.
I was over at Tech.
Oops.
Yeah, it was a post.
Audio dropped out.
That's
for
right.
A second.
Post on our side about I think they had 3 6950 graphics cards compared over at the Tech Report. MSI's apparently came out looking very good with the best performance and the best power efficiency, and with mail-in rebates, it's also the least expensive as well, which always is a help, And then it looks like on the Battlefield 3 side of things, if we looked at Hard OCP's article, they're basically single-player performance and multiplayer performance are fairly similar, I guess. Good scaling and crossfire performance, which is nice. Good scaling with SLI going from 39 to 72 frames per second. That's all good news. So, yeah. I mean, good quick look at performance there. But if you read my story from the beta, it looks like things remain pretty close to the same.
In the toolbox of my truck is a USB adapter that works between both with USB 2.0 and USB 3.0 hard drives. You have a little show and tell about rolling from USB 3.0 onto 2.0?
Well, I needed to buy this. I had to buy an external hard drive. We had to back up a lot of games. I had to take a lot of stuff with me on the last trip. And I have an OCZ Inyo, but it's 128 gigs. And with all the Steam backups and Battlefield and Warcraft, StarCraft, it wasn't enough space. So I bought this. I think it's a 750 gig USB 3. It's a mobile hard drive. It's a 2.5-inch drive. But it has this little adapter on the back that's pretty cool that these, who makes these? Seagate makes these. So you can see the SATA and data and power connections to the standard size there. And you can get different adapters for it. Well, here's something that we learned today here that I didn't know about. And maybe this is just us, and maybe we just were clueless. But have you seen, we know this connector. We know this connector, right? This is the SATA 3 micro connection.
Right.
And then you usually pair it with a cable like this. I'll get this down eventually. Right. And this is the problem with this type of connection. It's kind of flimsy. I've already had one break on an external USB 3.0 drive, and we were kind of like, we're not real fond of it. Why do they bother to do that? You know, why not do something more like this where it's a little bit more stable? Well, apparently I didn't realize that this is a USB 2.0 micro connection. And the reason they do that is that it's backwards compatible. And I did not know that. So this connection type on here, you can use a USB 3.0 cable, or you can use USB 2.0 cable. And so that now I kind of forgive the flimsiness of this style connector, which I did not before. Did you know that previously?
It never really occurred to me how simple it was. I've actually been carrying around a 1 terabyte version of that drive for a few weeks, and it's
very handy.
Yes. Again, it's really nice to be able to go from look, it's an 18,000 milliamp hour battery.
My favorite part is that this little cable, this cable that it comes with, right, is compatible with any hard drive. 3.5 inch, 2.5 inch SSD. So, and it has the USB 3.0 logic on here, not on this part. So I could hook this up to any SSD we have around. In fact, I bought an extra one from Amazon just because of the functionality of that, so that we could hook up bare drives up to a system to move data around whenever we wanted, even if I didn't necessarily want to use this one. So that was pretty cool.
It's a good thing. I'm actually also having the moment like you always forget how trashed a hard drive gets just rattling around loose in the bottom of your bag. Or maybe that's just my bag.
Maybe it's just you. No, I have that too. Mine was in the bottom of my bag on travel too. And I thought, man, I guess it used to be nice and shiny. Now it's scrap.
That's why you need a case for your case to go inside your bag.
Yeah, it's actually a 500 gig, but I bought the 7200 RPM version for some reason. I needed more speed. So I'm saying.
Mostly you were dreaming of SSD speed.
I was. I definitely was. Let's see. We're going to get to some emails. Let's first thank the second of today's podcast sponsors. That would be Netflix, our good friends at Netflix. They stream thousands of TV episodes and movies directly to you instantly, saving you time, money, and hassle. There are several easy ways to instantly access streaming movies and TV shows with Netflix. You can watch them on a PC, a Mac, an iPad, an iPhone. A lot of Android phones now have support for the any of the current generation gaming consoles like the 360, PS3, or Nintendo Wii. They support Netflix streaming. If you don't have one of those, you can use a Roku box. You can use an Apple TV device. There are lots of devices that support Netflix streaming. So you can watch any of those TV shows instantly on tons of stuff. Chances are you might even already have a device that could do it. Maybe you didn't even know. What's really cool about the streaming service is that you can begin watching a show in one place and finish it in another. So if maybe you're streaming it on your Xbox 360 downstairs, you decide that it's time to go to bed, you bring your iPad with you, you can finish that show on the iPad while laying in bed, or you can finish it the next day on the way to work. If you're taking the train or you're taking the bus, you have a lot of flexibility with what that allows you to do. So it's kind of like almost like an integrated DVR feature for those TVs and movie shows. And also, you can watch as many movies as you want, as many times as you want. You can repeat watch. Great if you have kids. Apparently, Patrick, I'm told they like to watch the same show over and over and over and over again. Is that the case?
Let's just say there's nothing quite like finding out somebody's ran up, $75 and watching the same episode of one video over the course of 3 weeks. And that was just my wife. No,
nice. Well done.
But with Netflix, you don't have that worry because Netflix has one low monthly price, even if you spend the entire month watching Netflix. I love the fact that, I can start watching on the projection screen in the living room, and then if I go, either traveling or want to watch it in the other room while, say, Phineas and Ferb is raging at top volume, I can do it without having to try to fast forward and rewind or write down. I knew if somebody used to write down the exact minute and second for the video they were in so they could fast forward to that part. I respect the accuracy, but it's so much simpler. It's integrated into the device, the application you're watching on that one.
Indeed. So you guys need to try Netflix today. It's 30 days free. All you have to do is go to netflix.com/twit. Use that URL. It helps us out. It helps you out. 30 days free. You can cancel at any time. We think you're going to love the service, so definitely give it a shot. Netflix.com/twit. We thank Netflix for their support of This Week in Computer Hardware and hope you enjoy watching instantly with Netflix. So what do you say we jump into a handful of emails? Actually, before that, I just want to point out, I was at Disneyland this past weekend, and Phineas and Ferb shirts are hilarious, and they are all over the place.
Phineas and Ferb is an awesome cartoon. They need more strong female role models than Phineas and Ferb. Just saying. Santini tweets about motherboard covers. At Patrick Norton, just wondering if a motherboard did not come with the I/O shield, can you still use it? For those of you who do not know what an I/O shield is, that's the little silver thing that plugs into the back of your ATX case, your micro ATX or whatever ATX case. It's basically the silver bit that your USB ports and your PS2 ports and your this port and your that port, your HDMI port, poke out through on the back of the case. It's for shielding. Probably helps with FCC compliance for the radio interference testing. It also helps keep small animals from nesting inside your PC or your kids pennies into your PC. Your PC will run absolutely, utterly, totally fine without it. If your motherboard does not come with one, contact the motherboard manufacturer and say there was no I/O cover in there, and they will probably send you one. And if not, you can actually purchase them online if you get lucky. The more common motherboards, you should be able to find one on the internet's being sold to fit your machine.
I've built probably 100 computers, and I bet 80 of them don't have those I/O shields on the back.
I like to have them. I
lose a lot, is what I'm saying. I lose them a lot. I tend to take motherboards out of the boxes and look at all the accessories, take photos of them, and then kind of put them away. And then, I'm going to build a system. Let's use that motherboard. And I have misplaced said I/O shield. So you definitely can. Let's see. We've got an email from Ray Charles. I don't think that one. About GPU microstutter. Now, I'm pretty sure it's actually not that same one.
From beyond the grave. Sorry.
It says, I am in the process of upgrading a graphics card. I currently have a GTX 560 Ti. Want to know how bad the micro stuttering problem would be to me if I added a second 560, or should I just go for the best single card I can afford? I have the cash to get the 580 if need be. This is an interesting question, and the reason I find it particularly compelling is because this really depends on how perceptive you're going to be towards this kind of visual imperfection, right? In my experience, it really affects different people very differently. Just in the same way, some people really get annoyed by the 3D effect of, say, the Nintendo 3DS or 3D Vision or going to the movies, and some people really like it. Some people it gives them headaches. Some people it doesn't affect them at all.
Right.
I kind of put micro stuttering kind of in that same boat. Some people can notice it right away. These frame rate divisions are not smooth. They're not consistent. Other people, you put them in front of the same system and they might not even notice that it exists. So I'm curious if this emailer has maybe just heard us talk about this fact, maybe has read stories about this, or if he has seen that on another system and he's noticed it. It will be there with an SLI system or a Crossfire system almost assuredly, and it will vary depending on which gaming title and image quality settings and all that type of stuff that he happens to be using. If he's one of those guys that's going to be very particular about that type of stuff, he's very particular maybe about response times on displays or something, then I would say it might be worth it if you have the cash, as he notes here, to buy the single GPU that's going to have similar level of performance and kind of bypass that altogether. But if you're not one of those particular people, you can save a lot of money by buying a second 560 Ti for like $200, $210, $220 instead of $450, $470, right? So you've got to, can you put a dollar value on that desire? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It depends on who you are. I've seen people buy, well, never seen. I've seen evidence. I've seen them installed in people's homes, like, you know, $3,000 speaker interconnects, which is a polite way of saying big ass cable between your amplifier and your PC.
Yeah.
Just saying. Oops. Brian, did we lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. It's apparently the internet is wreaking havoc on my computer today, which makes me wonder what's going on here in San Francisco. Where were we? Do you want to do the Netflix and GPU or do the SSD comment question next? Or
let's this one's kind of interesting. It's an email from Andrew about Netflix and GPU acceleration. So he loves Netflix and he loves his Lenovo ThinkPad W520 and with NVIDIA Optimus, which is a technology that allows it to seamlessly switch between using a discrete and an integrated GPU. Right. But he does not like them together, apparently. When I disconnect my Lenovo from the wall, the CPU multiplier naturally falls to save battery, and therefore my Netflix performance falls, and I can no longer watch in high definition. I assume that what he means is happens if we start to see stuttering in the kind of decode process of that HD stream. Right. What he would expect to happen and does not is that NVIDIA Optimus would kick in, but it does not. So I was wondering if there is a way to make Silverlight, which is the video, I guess the internet's technology that Netflix uses to stream their video, and NVIDIA Optimus play nice. FYI, I have tried downloading Silverlight 5RC, and I've tried to force Optimus to run manually, adding all the Silverlight exe files I can find to its settings page. Any other ideas?
It's frustrating that, by the way, that the full version of Silverlight 5 isn't out yet, because the whole, I mean, big announcements, Silverlight 5, GPU acceleration, which means, you know, not hearing the howling of a CPU fan like you hear on my notebook right now when you're using, you know, a video application, in this particular case, Silverlight. That said, you were about to say, my apologies, I just get really frustrated with, you know, I mean, Flash took, you know, what felt like forever to finally start going.
It did take forever. It did take forever. Silverlight 5 is supposed to support GPU acceleration, or GPU accelerated video decode, which I would assume then would be applied to whatever Netflix is doing. So what's interesting though is with Adobe Flash, the GPU only accelerated H.264 encoded Flash video, not blanket all Flash video. So most Flash video now is H.264, and so GPUs can accelerate. So I'm curious if maybe the Netflix streaming service isn't using the same codec that Silverlight would require for GPU acceleration, or if, like you're saying, the release candidate versions don't have it properly implemented and that type of thing. I'm curious. He says that he has tried to force Optimus to run manually by adding all the Silverlight exe files. Has he tried manually adding the Netflix app? If it runs in a browser, you're going to have to make the browser itself run in Optimus mode. So if you're going to start up Firefox or Chrome or Internet Explorer, if you right-click on that icon, you should see the drop-down. He probably knows what I'm talking about. It says run this application with, and it'll either say the Intel Integrated Graphics or NVIDIA Graphics. And if you select NVIDIA Graphics, see if he sees that same issue, or does it accelerate? And if it does, that's how he can get by it, is make sure whenever he goes to open a browser to play Netflix, he opens it in that way. I don't think adding the Silverlight executable files is really going to do the same thing, because it's plug-in architecture or whatever it is.
It would be nice, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. Of course,
yeah, that's what I would try. And the thing is, NVIDIA Optimus, this is the problem. It's supposed to get past. But what's interesting is, I think with the latest update to Optimus, they actually decided to take the browser out of that in a profile. They used to have it so the discrete GPU would run whenever the browser ran, because YouTube videos would run and that kind of stuff. And I think they took the browser out in order to save on more battery life, when they realized that the Sandy Bridge integrated graphics was more than capable of doing the decode on YouTube videos as well. But Silverlight, again, different than Flash. There's been less emphasis on Silverlight acceleration up until more recently. So
there you have it.
Yep.
One last thing before we go this week, Kevin has a home theater PC SSD comment/question/comment/question. Kevin says, I'm working on about a month delay in listening to your show. Recently, in my time, I heard you mention that using a solid-state drive in home theater PC didn't gain you anything. I'm guessing you mean from a need of data throughput view? Wouldn't it be useful for both being quiet and for low heat dissipation? Just making sure my thought process is on track. Keep up the great show. Kevin, you are absolutely correct. SSD drives are fantastic for home theater PCs in the sense that they are silent. They also are fantastic because they pretty much generate no heat. These are two great things for home theater PCs, especially if your home theater PC is buried in a closet or in another room. It doesn't have great ventilation. However, for most people, a home theater PC also needs huge honking amounts of storage that allows you to have all your movies nearby, and solid-state drives, unless you have an incredible amount of money to throw at your home theater PC, don't really fit that bill. That said, sure, hands are raising in the all over the chat room right now, going, you can put your data on a home server far away from the home theater PC and take advantage. And I admit, I actually have a first-generation SSD that I'm thinking about putting in my home theater PC just to eliminate. And the truth is, there's not that much hard drive noise, but just to eliminate that last little bit of hard drive noise in there. Although you can barely hear the hard drive now. So, but you, Kevin, your thoughts on this are absolutely correct and sorted. I just want 1 terabyte solid state drives in the wake of the Thailand dry up of the rotating media market. I want Intel to subsidize the production of 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte solid state drives.
They've got the money. I say they do it.
Neither one of us are going to be holding our breath waiting for that one to come.
No.
That bright and cheerful note. Ryan and Patrick holding their breath, waiting for the 1 terabyte solid state drives for $20 at Walmart. Not going to happen, at least not from Intel. Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware. I'm Patrick Norton, joined, by Mr. Ryan Shrout. Ryan Shrout, PCPro.com is the website. What exciting stuff do you guys have coming up on PC Pro this week?
What exciting stuff do we have coming up? We are going to be taking a look at these M17X Alienware notebooks very soon. We're going to compare some Battlefield 3 gaming performance on the fastest mobility graphics available, essentially single GPU performance available. So that should be a lot of fun. Those are some of the reviews we like doing because it involves game time.
Game time is good.
And how about on Techzilla? What do you guys have planned this week?
Techzilla, actually, I was not in for the taping this week, so I have the week off to finish the house so we can move in. Next week, HD Nation will be talking about basically positioning and hanging projectors. I'm very excited I will be able to hang the projector in the living room. Hopefully, my fear is being able to hang the projector in a way that does not actually block movement throughout the living room. I'm a little paranoid about that right now. And we've got some stuff coming up on a very unusual solid-state portable drive. And I'll tell you more about that next week.
Very cool.
That's it for this week in Computer Hardware. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Ryan Shrout.
We'll talk to you next week on Twitch.
Man, now I want to know what this really cool portable solid-state drive is. Hey, check this out.
That is so awesome.
Nice. We have one of those. Those at Disneyland.
I thought
those hats are awesome.
I also now hear R2 beeping Mickey Mouse theme in my head.
My wife made me buy it. I said, I'm never going to wear those ears. And she said, yeah, but you'll find something to do with it. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I found this, and I remember this poor, lonely companion cube now has a lot more personality. So